Well, welcome everyone. Hello again. I see a lot of the same faces that are seeing me again up here for another hour. But welcome to those that are new. My name is Tara Anderson. I'm the training manager at Nuforma. And I had a request, and I get questions often about, well, you know, there are so many different ways that we could send or share files with Nuforma. What's, the best way to use when? What are all the methods that are there? Because, within Nuforma, there's a lot of different ways that you can pull information and send information and track information. We have just the basic email, but then there's this whole Transmittals activity center and what you can do with that. And then there's info exchange, but you have, just regular info exchange transfer, but then you also have shared folders. So, when is it good to use one over the other? And then we have all this, we have this document, control, but then we also have document sets. Well, what's the difference between them, and why would someone use document sets versus document control? And then we even just have the basic, publish feature, which is definitely a way that you can share information or really print information. So, when do we use all these, and when's the best time? So I decided to put this session together just to kind of explore that. So we're not going to spend really any time in PowerPoint. We're going to go right into the product itself. So that's what we're going to cover here. We're going to look at different ways that you can send or share information within Nuforma, and talk about when it might be best to use each. Okay, so let's go and look at it live. Now I'm going to start initially right in project files. Okay, so I'm just going to start in project files because you'll find there's a lot of the methods and ways you can send and communicate information you can do right from here. You don't have to go anywhere different. So I'm just going to go into a folder here. And I have my files. I'm just going to highlight some of those files. Now we have the task window over at the left, but for this, when I'm in project files, I personally kind of like the right-click option because it's right on the files that I've highlighted. I can just right-click and get to my different options. So we're going to start with one that I don't know, sometimes I feel like people either aren't really aware of or maybe haven't seen that much, and that's just the publish feature. And publish really, that it's not as common as it once was, but sharing information through paper. So, actually printing these documents and then sending them to someone. So publish can let you do that. It can help you print those files. So your first option that you see there is just send them to a printer. And then you can just pick whichever printer is on your network and actually print these through that means. And you see the files down below that it's printing. You can check them to turn them off if there's something you don't want to print there. You can also, through here, create PDFs. Either just a individual PDF per page, or you can combine those here to make it a single combined PDF. Now there is a bit of a caveat to that, in that to do this, in order to create this, it needs to be a type of file that basically we can open in the Nuforma viewer. Okay, and create PDFs out of the viewer. So for example, if I had a Word document in here, when I would say create that PDF, it would gray out, because that's not something that we convert to PDF. Okay, so it's your 2D CAD files, your other PDF files, image files. Those are types of files that you can use this, but it would be very distinct to you. It would be very obvious to you if it was not going to be part of that PDF. But you can use this to either merge those together, create PDFs, or just send to a printer. If you don't like the order that they came in, you can just drag and drop and change that order down here. And that's the order they'll be created in or printed in. Questions there? So that is the publish feature. You're going to see that throughout Nuforma. Anytime you see that publish, those are the features that you'll see there. Okay, very good. How many people? Yes.
I have one question. I think I know the answer. go to publish a Revit file, can this see sheets that I have in the model to publish, or do I?
So if you just brought the Revit, like the Revit file here and said to create the PDF.
I wouldn't need to pick the sheets from it there.
No. No, you actually have to, go pull those sheets in here. Other questions? Okay. So that was our first method. Still a good way to communicate. Actually print it out. The Publish can help you do that, or create that PDF. Okay, so let's look at our next option. So the infamous email. So everyone likes their email, but when you come to email, you go to select, there's now not just email, but there's 4 options of what you can do with that email. So we have the send as an attachment, right? Pretty kind of explains exactly what it is. And the form is going to create that email for you and attach those files. I'm blinking. Right, so it attach those. When I just say the attachments, right, it automatically just separates them. Okay, it's not going to say, well, do you want to zip those together? Right, it's just saving those as the individual attachments there. All right, so that's an option that I think is fine if you're sending externally, but I wouldn't necessarily use this for internal communication. And the reason being, I think there's a better option for that, which is my next one here in email, which is the send as links. Because if you attach those files and you send them to someone internally, what do they typically do? Save them, right, on your network, again, somewhere else. So now you have 2 copies of the same file that's out there. Whereas if you just send it someone internally as links, you can say, I need you to check out these files or look at this, but you don't have to copy them over and over. They just get to the one that you were pointing to when you attached it here. So this is a great option for not having to duplicate those files over and over and over and then wondering, well, okay, which one do I look at? Just keep the one, send as links when you're internal. Questions there? Yes?
Can you set that up for external clients, whether downloading a link to our file?
Just from going through this email? No, but you could send through Info Exchange, and then they'd get a link to download those. So that's probably how, at that point. And again, when we get to Info Exchange, we'll talk about that a bit more. But yeah, that would be my method I would choose in that situation. Okay, so let's look at those other options, just so we know we see those. So with, again, our email. So we have the send, whoops, jumped up, there we go. Send and log a transmittal. Now, how many of you are logging transmittals actively? Okay, very good, very good. All right, so the nice thing about logging the transmittal is it keeps that information with the project, right? It sends that form, that transmittal form along as well in anything that you do. It also, what I kind of like about it is it keeps a very consistent look at how you're doing things. When you send with the transmittal, you're always going to get this form, very consistent. It's just a matter of how you're sending something. And keep in mind, these types of drop-downs, you can configure these. So, we have UPS in there by hand. It could be printed email. You can change these. You can put options in there. So the transmittal, when you do it with the transmittal, not only does it log that information, but it keeps a really consistent look and feel of how all this is done. Same thing, it has that purpose in there as well that you can track. So why did I send this? What was the purpose of this, sending this email? Okay, so that's going to give you your transmittal, and then notice there are my associated files as well. So if I say I want to send this to Bob, and maybe it is, we'll just keep the bid notion going there. So I'm going to create and send. Now, when I do the transmittal option, as opposed to just the attachments, I do get the option if I want to attach them separately or zip those files together. Again, we're emailing here. Okay, so that is another difference with using the transmittal. Now we'll just cancel that for now. and go back and look at our very last option we have here for email, which is send with options. So let's see what's a little different about that one. So the first thing is we're not getting that transmittal, right? So that's the obvious one. The screen's a little more basic here. So the files are listed. Again, we can still say who we're going to and why. And I go to send. Now, one thing that is a little different here, you have the attach, zip, or separate, but you also have the option, if you use this, instead of just saying, well, you know, this was an internal and you got to this point, you could say, oh, well, I don't have to attach. I can just send as a link. So you can, this is another way that you can send the links, but you could have done that right from that, you know, just send as links as well.
You've got internal and external users in it too. And you send link. What do the external users see? Nothing. Dead link.
That's correct. That's Chad.
They'll get a link to your, you know, with a reference to your file server, and they click on that, they'll just get an error.
Yeah, they won't be able to access it. So it's not giving permissions or access or anything like that. Question? Answer? Okay. Same question. Very good. So again, if your people are emailing communication a lot, and I'm sure they are, if they're doing it internally and it's internal communication, using that send as link feature can be really valuable, and just saving, you know, multiplication of the same file over and over again. Any questions on the email options there? Yes.
Do these options in any way end up showing up in the info exchange now?
When you simply use the email, no.
When you send as a transmit and log a transmit at the same time, where you click OK, it then opens Outlook and populates the email, and then you still have to click send to actually send the email.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can run the whole way through that. So again, I'm doing bid, I have my files, I'm going to create and send, just do them individually. So now, it's logging that transmittal, it brings up that email. The difference here as well, so it brings the email, it added that transmittal in there also. So your transmittal form with your logo and your setup, your customization, it's logged that in here also and put that as an attachment. So that's the other difference there. But yeah, you still have to hit send or send and file, right? So we want to send and file that to the project. So we could send there and still send it through that way.
You would still need to file that email?
Yes. Yes, you would still, if you want this email filed to the project, you'd still need to use the send and file. Correct. So even though we started from the project files and initiated the email there, it's still that option when you come to this point. Or if you sent it and then go to your sent items and file it. But yeah, you still need to file that. Other questions there on email? Okay, very good. Okay, so let's talk then of our info exchange. So how many people are, your users are actively sending files back and forth through info exchange? Okay, very good. Very good. Now, there's a lot of ways you can initiate that. I find some people don't even realize they don't have to go to the Info Exchange Activity Center to start that process. They can stay, again, right here in files. They can be right in the files as they see here and say, okay, well, yeah, I want to transfer those. So just in the exact same place we've been the whole time with that right click, I can go in and say that, you know, I want to transfer. Here again, it's kind of like the email. Do I want to just transfer, or do I want to transfer and log a transmittal? So if I'm logging that transmittal, once again, common look and feel, common form that I get, automatically has my info exchange in there. Now, one thing to be aware of, you know, if you go to the 2, that's going to get you to that project team. But for those of you that were in my last session, kind of a quiz, do you have to have someone on the project team to send them files through Info Exchange? No, I see some heads shaking. So that's correct. You do not have to have them on the project team if you just want them receiving files, right? One-way communication. They're not going to send back to you. It's a one-time kind of thing. You don't know if you'll ever send to them again. I also, to be honest, I find sometimes that if you have someone you're sending to that's a little more digitally challenged, maybe, you know, if you, in this case, they'll get one link. They click and they download, and it can, you know, it can simplify the process as well. So that can be good. So you don't have to. If you're going to send to them twice, I'd recommend adding them to the team. Also, if you want them sending to you, because, you know, they'll enjoy the benefit then of they don't have to worry about file size limitations on what they send you. It doesn't have to, you know, block up your Outlook account when they send you a huge attachment. Get them sending you information through info exchange. Then, yes, they do need to be on the team. They do need to have web access. But you can just send files to people even if they're not. Okay? All right, so let's go. We'll just get Bob there. So again, same form. What's nice about this, because we started at the files already attached. So I don't have to go in and grab those now. I started there, they're ready to go. I can just send that transfer. Okay, so that's going to give me that ability, and it's going to log that transmittal. So it goes along, the transmittal will go right along with the email notification in this case. So they get that transmittal with it. All right, so any questions there? Very good. Okay, keep in mind this option though. Sometimes people, I'll get a lot of questions on this one. So if you're sending files that have external references, CAD files with external references, you can let Uforma go find those XREFs, package those up for you, and send it along with the package. Okay, and it will do a kind of an index of what it's going to send. It always shows you what it's going to send before it sends it. So you know that it found certain files if there's something you don't want it to pick or don't want it to send. That is an option for you with each one of those transfers. Okay? And then also keep in mind, you know, I'm going to save a record copy. I'm going to save a shot in time of each transfer when I use Info Exchange. So if there's any question of what you sent someone, what they download, when you have Info Exchange and when you send through those methods, then you know for sure what you sent them. You have an exact shot in time of what they received, of what they downloaded, and if they downloaded it. So that's you have that tracking. All right, very good. So let's talk then about, right, so that was just Info Exchange. That was just straight transfers. Now notice though, if I switch from highlighting files to highlighting a folder here, and I right click, oops, don't want to do that, there we go, and I right click and I go to Info Exchange, I now have a whole other option to create a shared folder. Now, how many of you are using shared folders? Oh good, a lot. Thank you. So yes, we can create the shared folder from here. Now, the difference here is still, it's using that Info Exchange website. In this case, with the shared folder, I think of like a triangle. I think of, you know, your file structure, your network, the website, and then your client and your consultant that you're communicating with. So, right, you're synchronizing information up to the website, they're downloading, and if you give them the option, uploading, right, to the website. So all the communication, all the files they're accessing at this point, they're up there on the website. They're accessing them from your Info Exchange. I know some people they'll be concerned and say, well, oh, they're actually touching my network. They're grabbing those files that are in that in my network folder. No, those external users that are communicating, they're working with what's been synchronized, what's on Info Exchange. Okay, well, when I do this, when I create that shared folder, I have options, again, who is going to access this, right? So I have those options to make those changes of who's really going to have the permissions to do that. So here again, let's do my faithful old Bob Welder. Notice it brings in the name of the folder. You don't have to keep it that way. What your internal folder name is and what you want the shared folder name to be doesn't have to be the same. It just pulls that in by default. Notes you want to put there. Publish options. Now, I know we had a question in the last session about notifications always going out when things are synchronizing. So notifications are important. If you want people to know something's changed in the folder, then they need to be notified. But there is 2 places where notifications can be placed here, which is important. The first one under the Publish tab right here that's automatically checked there, that is when you manually synchronize. I highlight the folder, I say synchronize. Pushes that new content, copies that new content up. Then a notification would go out. Versus we have the synchronization schedule that you can set as well. So you set this schedule, then you don't have to manually think about it. Maybe you set it for every Thursday. You know, you're going to push your design changes and push those out on Thursday. So you can set up that time. Now when you do that, we have another option to send that notification. So that one applies to that automatic sync. Okay, so there is a little difference there.
So let's say it's a holiday, Black Friday, and that Friday is still scheduled to update, but there's no change in files. Does it still ever get notified?
No, not if nothing's been changed. Yep. Yes.
You share a folder, do you share the subfolders within it as well?
You do. Yes. So that's yeah. So if you share a higher level folder, the subfolders come along. And you can separate that content, and now when they upload, it's a lot easier to upload to subfolders as well. You can take a look at that.
You can also manually find files that you don't have to share the entire folder.
So that is true. Okay, so good point. Yes, so let's get out of the synchronization. In the publish options, the files to publish here, you can say, am I choosing specific files exactly in that folder, or do I want all the files in that folder? So that's a very good point. Same thing when you synchronize again. Is it all the new files, or is it just, am I going to have to choose each time? Now, the key to that is, if you have, choose the specific, there's going to be another window that comes up here when I sync for me to pick, right, which files that I need to and I want to synchronize. But yes, that is a good point. You can do that. Okay, also we have the uploading options here. So this is the ability, if you want those external users to be able to upload to your site. Now keep in mind, if they do that, they need to be able to log into your site to upload those files. So another little quiz, I guess, for those of you from my last session. So what does that mean? What does that user need if you have to make sure that they can log into your website? Very good. They have to be on the project team and very good. Web access and their permissions. You got it. So if you want them to log in and upload, then put them on the project team, give them web access to that project.
Okay, so we've got 2 offices, different domains, the same office.
Okay.
One office is pointing to our info exchange server.
Okay.
I want an auto synchronization from a file on our server to go to a file on his server. Basically taking out this old robocopy, just transferring it, not just making a local version. Would I use shared folders or publishing specific files, and then on his end, who doesn't have a new form of server, an info exchange server, because he's using ours,
Okay.
sync that back down to the location he specifies, automatically.
So he doesn't have info exchange, so it's not like you're connecting end to end. It's not two info
I can't
exchange
do it
servers.
then.
Okay.
He's got a client, a different client, but it just happens to be pointing to our office. I just want to push files to him automatically. Onto his server.
So maybe I'm missing something. He can't just go into project files and see the new files that you put in that folder?
I suppose I was looking for a little more automatic way to do it.
Okay. What I'd probably do then is maybe do the email links and say, I put these new files here, and email that link to those files.
Well, because they're using the file based on backgrounds in their office. We don't want to link across the LAN in the road files. We want them to have a local version.
Okay, so you really want to give them the file and they would download it then.
Yeah, or just appear as the latest version on there. I'm just thinking that maybe this is a way to do it, but I'm struggling because.
Here they're still going to need, if you use this, they would still have to log on to Info Exchange and download.
Okay, so that's a little physical.
Yeah, that's the
process.
exactly.
So they might as well just browse out to download/J and grab it manually. Okay.
It would,
Shared folders is really about sharing information with people that are external to you, that are not in your company. But if you've got multiple offices and you're trying to replicate files between those offices, shared folders is really not the solution to that. And it's not really something that we have a great solution for. So we don't do replication between your offices. So it's something we're looking at. Perfect.
very good.
Very cool.
Thank you.
And it's actually something that Dave Plunkett is really looking at as part of our road ahead. So if you've got some ideas about that, you'd be interested in talking to you.
Very good. Okay, so way to share information. You don't have to do individual file transfers then. You put files in this folder and you synchronize. They become available to those external users. Okay? So let's just take a look at that before we move on. Let's take a look at what this looks like on Info Exchange. So you know what, I'm in as an internal user right now, but I'm going to sign out of that. And let's go in as an external user. So remember, and this again, an external user always uses their email address as their username. Whereas you, as an internal user, you're going to use your network login, not your email address. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I'm in as Bob now. Bob is my external user. So Bob only sees the files, or only sees the projects that he's been on the project team and given web access. Right, but let's look at the shared folders then. So he can see, right from his shortcut, those shared folders. So he can immediately go into that information and download those files. And when I sync that folder, I can give him those options to do and click and choose, do a partial download. So if you ever seen partial download, that's simply what it means. That person is given the ability to go in and pick which files they want. And that can be really nice with the shared folders, I think, because it gives that person on the other side, oh, I want this one, and I need this one. And you still track that. You still know exactly what they took, exactly what they downloaded. Because the other thing that's nice about shared folders, it's part of Info Exchange. So all the tracking, all the logs, all that information, what was modified, what was uploaded, what was downloaded, is still all accessible to you through that Info Exchange Activity Center. So if you use these, you can always just sort. I like that the type is important here, because you can just filter that out and say, okay, well, I just want to see my shared folders, and filter that down. The subject in this case is the name of that folder. Sometimes that's a little confusing. I sometimes even move that. I'll move the subject over more to be more consistent. But when I look at that then, in my change log, I see all that information. When they were published, when they were modified, anyone that downloaded, you're going to see that record here. So you get that full tracking with that folder in Info Exchange because it's using that communication. So individual transfers are great. You just have a static amount of information you want to send, you can use the transfers. But if it's something you're going to be communicating a lot back and forth, a lot of different files, it's going to be changing often, the shared folders might be a better option for you, or just another option for you instead of having to build a transfer every time. And with that synchronization schedule that you can set up, it happens in the background. Okay, very good. All right, so let's go back then. I'm going to go back to my project files. Right, we'll just kind of review what we talked about so far. So over here at the files, remember we talked about just publishing, you're printing or making your PDF. We talked about your different email options there, the big thing, internal, send as links. saves that replication. And then we have the info exchange options where we can transfer, or remember, if you're not seeing the create shared folder, simply just means you're not on a folder. So you have to highlight that folder to be in there. But yes, as far as a question earlier, if like this, for example, this lead certification folder has all these folders within it. So if I go and look as Bob here, let's go back and look at lead certification. So you notice that we see all the other folders within there. And it also shows him how many files are within each one of those folders. So he can go and expand those and open those up. Now when he uploads, so let's say Bob here does have uploading permissions. Now I think this is a nice enhancement from 8 to 9. It gives them a better ability to pick which folder they want to upload in. In 8, it was a little harder to see as an uploader exactly where you were putting those files. But I think this makes it more clear. They can see where they're uploading and upload to one of those subfolders as well. You don't have to give uploading rights. That's something you can do per folder.
External users, when they upload, they have the ability to add a remark right there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in on the internal side, if you go and just go with the manual sync button, it'd be nice to be able to add a remark to that one also. Because otherwise, you have to go back into the manage folder.
Right, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I see what you say. Because otherwise, yeah, so if I just go to that folder here and just do my sync, it just goes right on to how I want to sync. So that's a good plus request. So yeah, you'd have to go in today if you want to change that, and you can either go to the shared folder options or modify your remarks here each time. Yeah, that's a good comment. Yes.
We got it. When the external user downloads all,
okay.
Does it preserve the folder structure?
Oh, I see. So when they download the whole thing, yes. So when it goes to what they see in the download, yes, it preserves what folders those were in. Other questions? Okay, very good. All right, then, let's talk a bit about, because I get the question all the time, what is the difference between document sets and document control? So let's talk about those a little bit. So how many people use document sets today? Okay, a few. How many are using document control? Okay, so maybe a little less, or a different group there. So document sets. The idea here is you're building a virtual set of files. Right? It's a virtual set. You're not actually creating that folder on your network and copying files into it. So people ask me, well, okay, when would I use document sets? I usually say, well, one reason, if you're ever tempted to create a folder and copy files from different places and put them into that folder. So now again, you've copied the files, you have multiple versions or multiple replication of those files on your network. If you're thinking to do that, create a document set. Because now you can do that, you create that set, and you can go and grab and pull files from all different places within your project. Okay, so that's what it lets you do. Now, it's not copying the files, it's pointing to the files, right? So it's that dynamic link to the end of that file. So if you overwrite that file, what you see in the document set is that latest file update, right? It's a dynamic link to those when you create this. Within here as well, you can create subsets also. So if you notice, this set broke down into different discipline subsets, and then I can go into those individually and see the content. So now I'm looking at the contents of the civil subset. Now, another very powerful thing about document sets is that by default, internal users will see the contents of these on Info Exchange. So if someone says, you know, I need access to these files when I go out in the field, and I need to be able to get them on my iPad, Well, you can make a document set out of those. And if they're an internal user, just by doing that, they'll have access to those files. So document sets are automatically available to your internal users only. Okay? It's not, the whole document set is not something you can say I want external users just on a permission set to see. So you don't have to worry about that. But it's a great way to give people access to those files internally when they're going to be out of the office. Okay, just by virtue of making that. Okay, so.
Sorry. So generally speaking, when I'm on info change, I don't need to get a VPN.
Correct.
But now you're telling me that I have access to stuff that's not necessarily on info exchange. Do I now need to get a VPN, or am I just seeing, where is this, am I seeing into the network at this point from my iPad?
You are through the info exchange. So you do not have to be on the VPN. But you can still, as an internal user using those internal credentials, access those files. I saw another hand, I thought. No? Okay. All right, so again, I can create a document set. I can make subsets within it if I choose to. I can add files from all over. When would you do this? If you ever think you were going to copy the files into a folder. Milestones, distribution sets, those are all good examples of when you might use a document set. This is an important button just for workflow. If you get into a subset to get back to the main set, use that button up the top. And that'll bring you back to those main document sets. Yes?
Let me ask this question another way. And I think this may be where he was going with it, is that if he accesses that information on Info Exchange, does he get the latest stuff that's on the network? So for instance, there's a file in a civil folder up there that I made a change to on the network and made some revisions to it. He goes through Info Exchange and accesses it. Does he access the latest file or the one that was posted at the time of the document set was made?
It's the latest file. If you're an internal user, you're ones have document sets. So let me sign out here and go back as internal. You'd be accessing the latest file. So that's a really good point and a great distinction and power for internal users. So let's log in as an internal user. Again, internally, you're using your network credentials now. That's why things are different than that external user who doesn't have isn't validating those credentials against your network. Yes?
It's always glance file, it's a link, not a copy, right?
That's correct. In this case, and so that's exactly what I was going to show. It does, in this sense, it looks different than a shared folder or a file transfer. Internal user sees document sets. When they go into a document set, they see links to those files, which would be the latest file that's on the network at that time. Does that make sense? It's not a copy of it at this point. This is actual a link passing down to the network and grabbing that file.
So they're using the internet in place of having to log in VPN to the network, right?
In this case, yes, if you created a document set and pointed to those files. So using Info Exchange to do that validation and pullback.
Do you have projects that would create a document set for their entire, all the project files? Or that's getting a little unmanageable?
I don't know. I've heard people talk about it. I haven't personally seen it, where they actually took their whole P drive and they.
It would be hard to do because you have to create subsets for each. Yeah, you have to go in.
It would be messy.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up. Unless you go in and add it.
Right. Yeah. That's right. It's not like shared folder where you just have your existing structure and go share it, and you literally have to physically remake.
And it's really not designed to do that.
No, not the intention. But it's a great way when someone needs access to just a certain combination of files, right? They don't have, that's the other nice thing, you know, with shared folders, it all has to be either in that folder or in that structure. But this way, you're pulling files from anywhere within that project, and now can have access to those all within that one document set. And it could be a temporary thing. You know, you can come in and delete it after. Because you just needed access to those files. You know you're going to need it for the week you were out on site.
So they can download a file, they need it, edit it on their notebook or whatever, but they can't push it back to document set update on also.
That's correct.
So if they need to edit a file in the field and to get it back to my office, you have to use shared folders rather than document set.
That's correct. Either shared folders or just sending files back. But yeah, if it's really to populate the contents of the folder itself, then yes, shared folders would be what you want to use. Because there's no add or upload here. This is a view. This is an access for internal users, but not a way to build that set online.
If one of my field guys called and said, I didn't realize it, but I need access to all the shop drawings and they weren't published, I can just go in and create a record set, a document set rather, and then the next time you walk in the info exchange, they'll all be there for you to download.
Yep. So and it's really pretty simple in creating that. It's, create the set. You can name it whatever you want, and then you just simply go out and add files or folders. They do need to be part of your project, right? But if they're not, it'll ask you, do you want to make them and put them in the project? So it could be something that's somewhere else, but it'll let you put it into a folder within your project.
So when you already create documents, say, someone says they
Oh,
want
sure.
to create it in there.
Sure. So let's say, let's take this lead review. So I just have to highlight it here, and I can go right down. Well, I could double click on it and open it up, but if I don't even want to do that, I can just add files right here. So I just say another project file, and it takes me out, and I just grab files and add to it. I can also remove files, so if there's ones I want to take out. So I can make all those edits after. Now the other thing that's powerful here, I can have a document set that's available for internal users, right, automatically. But if I want external users to also have access to that, as you see in some of these, what did they do? What's different about these? Those are, info, those are shared folders, right? So I can take a document set that I built, pulled in from all different places. I can right-click it and say I want to make that a shared folder. So now this is how you could give access to external users. But here's the difference. When you make a shared folder, when we're synchronizing those folders, we're synchronizing a copy of those files up to the website. Remember we talked earlier, it's like the triangle, right? So you have your file structure, the website, and your client. So the shared folders, it takes the copy and puts it up on that website. So your external users aren't linking to your network. They're grabbing what's up here at the website. Okay, so you don't have to be concerned if you say, oh, wait, didn't she say document sets you're linking into the network? It's only internal. The only way you make this external is to make it a shared folder. As soon as you make it a shared folder, that means it synchronizes the contents up to the website, and that is what your external users access.
When they upload, where does it go? Into the server?
Yes. So when,
We don't upload that.
well,
You can allow them to upload.
in a shared folder.
A shared folder.
So if you make this a shared folder, that's correct. So when I make that a shared folder, I can give them the option to upload. Now here's the one difference if I'm sharing a document set. Because remember, I said that document sets are virtual, right? It's a virtual folder. It doesn't really exist as far as on your network, a network folder. Now when we allow people to upload, right, they go to the web first, but then it does, you can pull it down. It's going to pull down to your network. So that's what this destination folder is talking about. This is just one difference in the setup if you ever make a document set a shared folder. That's just one difference if you're allowing uploading there, is this destination folder, because there's no physical folder where this document set is today. So it's just saying, okay, so for these uploads, where are they going to go?
And then you approve it and then place it wherever.
It really depends on how your server's set up, to be honest. If you have that where it's stopping an info exchange and then letting you know and you're approving it and then downloading it, then yes. But some people have more of the automatic. So it kind of passes right through. And that's where this would come into play. Because it needs somewhere to go to on
But
your
it wouldn't
network.
replace the file that was used to create the document set for it.
No, not unless for some reason you were matching this to that same folder. Yeah, exactly. So this is usually kind of a distinct folder that you've created that you're getting those uploads. So it's a document set kind of from all over. This is the back.
But if they upload a file and upload an update of the next day, they would be overriding. destination folder will take a second.
That's correct.
So with the shortcut, that's always a live file that you need to, when you share the folder, that then becomes a copy and it's no longer a live file.
That's correct. And keep in mind, that's the distinction again between internal versus external. Only internals can have the shortcuts or the links.
So in that case, if you go back to your docs, that's still a link, but the shared folder link is copy. Is
That's
that correct?
so. I mean, or when you say the view in info
If
change,
I go to view docs, then I'm still looking at a link to the server.
Yes.
But in the shared folder view, I'm looking to the link to info change.
exactly. So this as-built here, right? I'm an internal user. I'm seeing the links to that actual file, what it is right at this moment, versus if I go and view a shared folder. I don't know if my as-built isn't shared, but I could have, let's see one that is.
So it could be in both the document and the shared folder.
Oh, yeah, they are right here. Sorry, I wasn't seeing them. So this is the exact same, this is the folder that's shared, but now I'm seeing these are the copies. So hypothetically, could these be different?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The active ones are right now. These are what was synchronized.
So the user with the shared document set uploads a new file to a specific folder. Hey, these are all the structural PDFs.
Mm-hmm.
Are they automatically now part of my document set for my new file? Or do I have to go and add them to the
Right, to the, no, they should be. Chad, can we,
Nobody added the document.
yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. Yeah, so back here, so even though you set that destination folder somewhere, but if they're uploading, you would see their files added here.
They would just be linked to that folder that I specified.
That's correct, when you created the shared folder here, exactly.
So how current the files are in the shared document depends on the synchronization rules then of the shared.
Shared folder, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
How current they are here online of the contents of the shared folder is when did you last synchronize? Whether it was manual or you have the synchronization schedule. Correct. I saw other, go ahead.
And that date is what was originally shared right there, not last synchronized at the top where it says.
This, date shared. I just want to confirm that. Is that when the share was created or the last sync?
Couldn't tell you offhand. Look at the change log and see the full schedule there. That'll be very clear.
Yeah. So, and yeah, that's going to show you everything, because everything that, modified and so forth, you'll see there in that change log. Other questions? Okay. So, document sets, again, virtual file structure, need to expose those files to people in the field. They need access to those as an internal user. Create a document set, and then they can get access to those. One thing I did want to show you here on that I think is kind of important to see on my document sets. When it lists these, if they were in subfolders, that one doesn't have subsets. Let's find one with subsets. Okay, so this had subcategory subsets I created in document sets. When I get this initial view as the internal user, it lists just all the files and lists the subset they're in over here, right? So I could filter that, but if I go into the related items, I see those separate subsets right there and can just click on that and see the contents. So sometimes I think that's even an easier way. If you just want to see the contents of each of those subsets, just go to the related items. You'll see those subsets listed there. Okay, very good. Okay, so very quickly, because I know we're getting close, we want to talk about document control. And some of you may have been in my document control session yesterday, so you'll forgive me for a bit of repetition, but document control, this is where you can control your deliverables. It's the place where you can see Your internal users can come when they're in the office and see the latest revision of those files. Right here at the top, that's the latest revision and the revision history. But they can also get that access and see that and share that information online. Now, people always ask me, though, what's the difference between this and document sets? Well, firstly, these are individual files. These aren't sets of files that I'm putting together. These are my project deliverables, right? But I'm not making separate sets like I did in document sets. This is more that permanent record of what I'm sending out and the different revisions. So this is more about managing the revisions of files than it is the distribution of just sets. Okay, so it's that place I see the latest revision of those files. Now from here, as far as how that is shared, you as an internal user can see those as well through record documents. So again, I know that the Activity Center name of document control it's not exactly consistent with what you see here, but just every time you see record documents, that is what's in document control. Okay, so those two are the same. You make record documents in document control. By default, if we're just talking internal versus external user, by default, external users do not see record documents. Now, unlike document sets, another difference, you can, however, in permission sets, give external users access to record documents. For a document set, what do you have to do to give an external user access to those files? Share, right, you have to create a shared folder. There's no permission set for that. Okay, that's different. But this one there is, but by default, your just external user doesn't do that. So if I look at record documents here, what's great about this is even when your user now is out in the field on their iPad, they have access to the latest revision immediately. So what they see there is that latest revision. And again, it's that same concept of what we saw in document sets, is that it's that link to that file, right? A link to that latest revision. Okay, so they have that access. It's a little different here, and it's nice for them as well, though. As an internal user, they can go back and see the history. So they can see what happened with those other revisions. They can get the information of who they were sent to, right? They were sent, how they were sent, why they were sent, and actually even access earlier revisions. So what they see right immediately is always the latest revision. But if they need to go back and go, okay, wait, what was the previous, what was different here, they can access that. Okay, again, you can open this up for external users to see as well. The difference there is that they are going to only be able to access the files that you've issued to them, that they've been sent. They'll see the records if you choose to open that up. It's not the default setting.
I'm sure you've been asked this. These two seem so similar and so nuanced that the average user in my office will have a problem with the siloing effect of, oh, you want to see revisions, we'll use this. Oh, you want to see the latest version. In your opinion, which is the one that kind of accomplishes the idea of needing to see the latest, and this sounds like this, see the latest and perhaps reference some revisions? I'm thinking
it's this. I would say
this is better than the document sense.
It again kind of depends on the purpose. If it's about revisioning and seeing the latest revision and accessing that, I would say that's document control. These are your deliverables. This is the revision of those. If it's just about, well, I need access to some of these files that are in different places, I need access to these files. It's not necessarily about the revisioning, but I need to pull these files together in a set but not copy them, make them organized. That's document sets. But those might not be a record so much of your deliverables. Like this is a record of your deliverables, who received them, all tracked in one place, as well as that latest set revisioning. Did that help at all? Alan, do you have any?
Well, this may or may not help, but
document control is about accessing properly the issue. They may be works in progress, or revisions along the way to final completion of the job, but if the action is formally issued versus document sets is, files that are works in progress. Sales spreadsheets, AutoCAD files, that's another way to think about it. AutoCAD files, spreadsheets, Word documents versus PDFs.
Right, maybe that final deliverable, that final document being a PDF, all the other work stuff in the meantime being a set.
The concern about the even sound to say for someone that's not that deeply entrenched in the project center, you understand how that can be confusing. I think by default we also sort of hide document sets from project phone.
Yeah.
There's some.
I honestly find that more if I want to say the average user might be more using document sets, to be honest, pulling those files together if they're using anything. I usually find there's document control is more maybe a set group or people that are really controlling those final deliverables are going to use document control. Other questions there? Yes.
Well, actually, if you're doing a project with multiple work packages for management construction, you can use the document sets for the individual work packages.
Mm-hmm.
And then you use what you're calling record documents for the conformed, what the industry calls the conformed set, that is the cumulative set.
There you go. That's another good example. Again, kind of work and then that final.
And the construction team might want to have access to both for different purposes. They might want to be able to see the documents that were in a given work package, but also they may want to see, well, because that one may have an earlier version of a given drawing or specification section, but the conform set would have the most recent version in the cumulative set.
That's a good example.
I'm putting the document says, does it have to be folder structure within that project of your file server?
You can go and pull outside of that, but it'll tell you that it's not in the project, and do you want to put it in the project? So yeah, the short answer is yes, it does have to be in there, but you can pull from out. It'll put it in for you.
If we have a prior version of that building, we're doing a remodel, it's not going to just let them have access to those original design documents.
Yes, it has to come back into the project structure. It has to be in that project structure.
Is there a way, when you first come in record documents, to download the latest for all of them? Look, if I have 200 PDFs, do I have to go through each PDF and download the latest revision 200 times? If I was a new client that came on board or something.
Well, so keep in mind if you're internal and you're seeing the record documents, that's kind of accessing them here one at a time. If you wanted them down, something like a package that you issued, you would typically issue that as a transfer, and then they would see that just in their file transfers. So then they could download them all or pick or choose. That's really when you issue those, that would be that action. Other questions?
On dot sets, just a clarification, because when you go to a dot set and you do have subsets in there,
Mm-hmm.
they do not show the default view.
They do. That's what they actually.
Related items to see that.
Well, you can see them over at the side here. So I think I'm trying to remember which one they were. No, this one. So they show over here in the subset. So you could filter by that and say I just want to see the architectural. So you could filter it down. But if you go into the related items, that's where it actually lists them and the contents. Yeah, it shows up the files all individually just with the subset described, and you have to go in the related items to change that. Well, very good. I truly appreciate all your questions. I don't want you to be late for other sessions. Thank you very much. If you have other questions, please let me know in between or contact me. And I thank you and enjoy the rest of the presentation.